All right. Welcome, Hampstead. Tonight is January 11th, 2022. At approximately 6:35, we are calling to order the special meeting. Melissa, if you would mind doing the roll call?
Sure. Mr. Giard?
Here.
Ms. Malcolm?
Here.
Mrs. Parnell? Mrs. Pellegrini?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
And also seated at the board table is Superintendent of Schools, Bob Thompson. And I believe we also have CFO Jeff Dowd joining us.
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you.
All right. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Aaron, would you mind starting us off?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all very much. There's no the reason for the meeting is to review the findings from CFO Mr. Jeff Dowd on the property line. For those that did not see the meeting from December, we had a discussion around that there would be possibly a warrant being provided to the public to vote on the property line at the Hampstead Central School, which is property that right now we are using with the generosity of the neighbors of the Central School. And Mr. Dowd, who we'll turn it over to, has negotiated the sale of that property so that we can officially have it as the Hampstead Central School's property. Mr. Dowd, would you like to provide an overview for us?
Thank you, David. Yes, this is in reference to what is now Article 5 on the warrant. After we spoke, I was given authorization to negotiate with the abutters, the neighbors at 13 Emerson, to secure what we'll call Lot B, which is the plot of land that we've plotted as a lot line adjustment between the school and their property. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So the plot is approximately, it's the length of their property, so it's 202 feet by approximately 17 feet, about 3,434 square feet, plus or minus. And we came up with a price of $17,738, which is based on a valuation of about $225,000 per acre. And the approval of the warrant and our ability to complete this purchase will allow us to secure that property and make sure that we don't have any problems in the future, and to make sure that we can maintain our own liability risk on that particular parcel. I have I have created a web page with some frequently asked questions on that. It is off of the public hearing warrant page, off the main page of Hampstead Schools main site, and I've included some pictures in that showing if anyone's familiar with it, most of the driveway going into the parent drop-off and pickup line, most of that is on our abutters property. We also have a telephone pole and underground utilities which continue to run past the driveway into the grass area. And we're talking about a total about 17 feet, securing 17 feet so that we'll have access to those lines, have access for our driveway, no problem. So I'm happy to address any questions the board has. Obviously, I've mentioned before, this is something that we've known about for a while. We did not have a full survey on the property. These properties are very, very difficult because you know when you have a new subdivision, typically there's a more recent survey that you can go off of, and the Hampstead Central School property does not have that. Our abutters don't have that, so we were able to obtain a site workup on our main property for the renovation work, and now that we've done that, we've been able to use that to engage a surveyor to get us the lot line adjustment plan.
All right. Thank you for that overview, Jeff, and appreciate the pictures as well as the information up on the website off of the homepage of the Hampstead school system. So thank you for that. Any questions to Mr. Dowd? I think it falls in line with what we talked about in December and what we've all known. And this falls right in line with what we've discussed as a price point, so that's good to see that. I don't think, we look at 17,000 for this isn't outrageous at all, so we appreciate the discussions and, again, the generosity of the abutters. So at this time, I'll be looking for a motion to add to the warrant, Article 5, shall the voters of Hampstead School District raise and appropriate the sum of $17,738 for the acquisition of approximately 3,434 square feet, plus or minus of the land abutting the Hampstead Central School, and to approve the purchase and the sale agreement between the district and the owner of the said land in order to complete a lot line adjustment for the Hampstead Central School with property located at 13 Emerson Ave, Tax Map 7, Lot 51, for the purposes of resolving an existing encroachment of the vehicular traffic and utilities by the school, and provided the terms and conditions of the purchase and sales agreement are met, to further authorize the school board through its chair to enter into such further agreements and sign such documents are as necessary to effectuate this transaction. This shall be non-lapsing appropriation.
So moved.
Motion by Jason,
Second.
second by Megan. Any discussion? All right, all approved? All right, 4-0, it passes.
You?
You're welcome.
And David, before you move on, you had all taken a look at the default budget and the operating budget for the district. I wanted to make sure that you had some eyes on the revenue budget as well, and that is in the financial package. You should have a proposed budget package.
Okay.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so like 6 pages in. It says 2022 to 2023 revenue.
The last packet.
And based on the revenue projections and what we know now for aid from the state,
Yep.
it does look like our total income would be potentially less, but our district's assessment is also less in the budgeted year as projected. So we're looking at a total income in the 22-23 budget year of $5,930,937.
Okay.
So this is a fluid number, and this really does tend to move around, but I did want to make sure that it is a component of the budget, and to make sure that we all had eyes on it before we moved it forward.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Everybody should have it in their packets. And some of the lines that are reasons for lower, it's a lower lunch reimbursement. Just looking at some of the other information here, Jeff, before we let you go.
Yeah, we have so tuitions, I'm anticipating a traditional year of tuitions next year, so starting off at the top. Unassigned fund balance at the top of $1,250,000. That's partly based on the fact that we received some refunds this year already from our insurance company and, from our health insurance carrier. So I do anticipate that we'll be in a healthy range for surplus. Our tuitions, our revenue should be up next year. Food service sales this year on that 1600 line, you'll see 0 because we didn't bring anything in locally. Well, we aren't bringing in a lot locally.
Yep.
It's all being brought in through the state. I anticipate that next year we'll be bringing that in again from local sources. You'll note that we had a withdrawal from capital reserve budgeted in the current year budget of $1,160 million. And educational grant, it looks like we'll be receiving more in an educational grant, $3 million, as opposed to the current year, which is $2,845,000. And then when we get on to federal revenue, that's what I think you were noting, that 4560 account, that lunch reimbursements, is showing $200,000 in the current year and $63,500 next year, and that's because we're under a current free lunch, and that's federally sponsored. And I'm not anticipating that that's going to continue to proceed next year. So I've budgeted that revenue at the rate that we had it prior to the pandemic for federal reimbursement.
And Jeff, just remind me here, just to make sure where it says total income, that's just a summation of the numbers above it?
Correct, yep. Yep.
Got it. And so the big difference, again, for board members is that withdrawal from capital reserve, so that's why. But, all right, that makes sense.
Yep.
All right. There's no other business right now, so I think I'll be looking to close this meeting. We've got about 15 minutes until our public hearing starts, unless there's any other business to bring up right now, board members. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and we'll look to close this out at 6:47 on January 11th, 2022. And for those watching at home, we'll re-adjourn for the public meeting in just about 13 minutes. All right.
Thank you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Tonight is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. Meeting tonight is for the public hearing on the bonds. And I'm going to ask Melissa to go ahead and do the roll call.
Mr. Giard?
Here.
Ms. Malcolm?
Here.
Mrs. Parnell? Mrs. Pellegrini?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
And also seated at the board table is Superintendent of Schools, Bob Thompson, and joining us by phone is CFO Jeff Dowd.
All right. And I know we just did it for our special meeting, but we're going to go ahead and do the pledge and ask Megan to kick us off.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag.
Of the United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So for the members at home, you can find a lot of the information we're going to go over off the Hampstead School District's homepage. Anything that's not posted there yet will be posted. And we'll start reading from the slides and talking about what is being presented for the public hearing. So, for the public hearing on the bond, proposed 2022-2023 budget and preview of the 2022 warrant. Let's make sure this is going to work. All right, now it's not working. Oh, all right. What's that?
I advanced it.
All right. All right, so tonight we're going to talk first about the introduction to the district. We're going to go on to the presentation of the warrant. We'll have a public hearing on the bond. We'll also have the public hearing on the budget, and we'll also review additional warrant articles. See if I can. I got it? Good. All right, so the first part, again, introduction to the school district and to the board. For those that don't know, calling in and listening for the first time, we have board members Jason Giard, board member Aaron Pellegrini, vice chair Megan Malcolm, Caitlin Parnell is a board member who is not able to join us tonight, and myself, David Smith, as chair. To the right, we have new superintendent to the district, Bob Thompson, and on the phone, we have CFO Jeff Dowd, and sitting to the left of me is school board clerk Melissa Post. All right, so the district's profile. Hampstead School District, located in Hampstead, New Hampshire, includes two schools, the central school and the middle school. Currently, we have 819 students in grades pre-K through the 8th grade. There are 392 students in grades 9 through 12 who are tuitioned and attend Pinkerton Academy in Derry. Again, Pinkerton Academy is the public academy and a designated school of record for high school students in Hampstead. Let's see if I can get this. I think I'm going to need your help tonight. Thank you. Our mission statement, the mission of the Hampstead School District is to provide challenging education experiences that prepare all students to succeed to their individual potential in a changing world. School board goals for this year, facility improvements, which you'll hear about tonight, appreciation of diversity and inclusivity, to facilitate a new strategic plan, to develop a well-encompassed budget with being mindful of our community, be effective with our use of our resources, to provide our brand new SAU 55 support, to support the innovative practices of our teaching community, and to engulf ourselves in the outdoor community-based learning. All right, so we are going to move on to the presentation of the warrant. All right, so 2022 school district warrant. To the inhabitants of the school district of the town of Hampstead, New Hampshire, qualified to vote in district affairs. First session of the annual meeting, the deliberative. You are hereby notified to meet at the Hampstead Middle School, 28 School Street, Hampstead, New Hampshire, on Tuesday, the 8th of February, 2022 at 7 p.m. This session shall consist of explanation, discussion, and debate of warrant articles number 2 through 6. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. A, warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. B, warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for a final vote on the main motion as amended. And C, no warrant articles shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article. Second session of the annual meeting, the voting. Voting on warrant articles 1 through 6 will be conducted by official ballot to be held in conjunction with the town meeting voting to be held on Tuesday, the 8th of March, 2022, at the Hampstead Middle School at 28 School Street, Hampstead, New Hampshire, where the polls will be open from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. Next slide. Okay, Article 1 is the election of the officers, which is to choose the following school district officers. School board member for 3-year term, school board member for 1-year term. As a reminder to the public, the filing period for any candidates is between January 19th and goes through January 28th at the superintendent's office. This is located at the new SAU office at 20 Mary E. Clark Drive, number 10, in Hampstead, New Hampshire. Okay, next is going to be Article 2, the bond proposal. And the public hearing is going to be on the budget, and we'll follow the public hearing on the bond. All right, the public hearing on the bond is now open. Bond issue. Next one. All right. So Article 2, the bond issue. Article 2, Hampstead Central School Addition Project. Shall the voters of Hampstead School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,595,000 for the Hampstead School Addition Project and authorize the issuance of not more than $12,595,000 of bonds or notes under and in compliance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, to authorize the school board to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest therein, and the maturity and other terms thereof, to authorize the school board to apply for, obtain, accept, and expend any federal, state, or other aid that may be available for said project, and to authorize the school board to take any and all action necessary in connection therewith to pass any other vote relative thereto, and further to raise and appropriate an additional sum of $314,875 for the first year's interest payment on the bond. 3/5 ballot vote required. I'm going to turn this over now to our superintendent, Bob Thompson. And for the reasons that the town has, over the last number of years, I'll just say a number of years, brought this bond to warrant. And with this year being our new SAU with a new superintendent, we had asked Mr. Thompson to do an evaluation of the central school, to evaluate its current standings as well as what's needed for the future, to either look at the plan to bless it and say it makes sense, or to look at it and say, how could we change it, modify, amend, maybe even remove anything. So we'd like to have him present to the public about what his findings at this point.
Thank you, Chairman Smith. So since taking office on July 1, I've had the opportunity to spend a significant amount of time at the Hampstead Central School. And I was filled with great hope and optimism that I'd be able to go to the Central School with a fresh set of eyes, with some objectivity, with a little bit of that outsider lens, to be able to look at the space and work creatively with the administration to sort of find a workable solution. I've arrived at the conclusion There is no workable solution other than the addition project as proposed. It is very similar, and there'll be a presentation by our architect shortly to the project that was proposed last year. And I really wanted to just share some of my thinking and my observations in terms of the deficiencies that I've identified. The list that I have is certainly not comprehensive. There are others. But for me, these are some of the priority areas that absolutely need to be addressed, and there's an urgency to fixing these deficiencies. So I've categorized them in two ways. One is inadequate space, things that are inconvenient and even might present a safety risk. And then after that, I'd also like to focus on the instructional impact. Again, the current facility at the Central School is having an academic or an instructional impact on our students. But I want to start first about talking about some of those other deficiencies. And so the first one is if you are to visit the Central School, you're aware of the fact that the visitor entrance is not an ideal situation. If you visit the Central School to go to the main office or even the nurse's office, you have to go through several sets of doorways. You actually have to go through, as a visitor, the main stairwell of the school, which oftentimes has many students in transit prior to arriving to the main office. And if you're going to the nurse's office, you actually have to go across the entire school. There's a variety of safety concerns that I have in regards to the visitor entrance. For the purposes of a public meeting, it's not appropriate for me to go into those specific safety concerns, but they are numerous. I would also like to point out, too, that anyone who has been to the music room knows that we don't have a music room at the Central School. We have a music program that is delivered on a stage. There's several problems with this. One is the size of the stage is very limited. I can tell you that we've done a lot of contact tracing this year, and it has been very challenging to contact trace in that room, and we've identified a number of close contacts because of the size of the room and the activities that typically take place in a music room. I can also tell you having the music room located next to the cafeteria and the gymnasium through a very thin partition wall is problematic for classroom instruction. The music room is not sufficient. We have placed a high value on the arts, yet we operate in a music room that has several deficiencies. Next to the music room is our gymnasium. Now, our gymnasium also has a partition wall, so we don't have a full gymnasium for use. It's dual purpose. It serves the purpose of serving lunch to the children, so it serves as a cafeteria and as a gymnasium. This is problematic for a couple of reasons. The first reason being that we cannot have we can't have physical education classes when the gymnasium is being used as a cafeteria. That may not seem like a big deal, but it actually is a big deal because that means that our physical education classes are driving the master schedule because there's limited times where we can have PE classes in the gym. That is a problem. You know, what is best for kids in their learning, those are the things that should drive a master schedule and not whether or not we can have physical education in a gym. Additionally, it's very taxing for our custodial staff because they have to set up and break down, sometimes multiple times a day, the cafeteria setup so that we can move back and forth between a gymnasium and a cafeteria. That's time that it's the law of opportunity cost. That's time where our custodians are not able to do other things like sanitizing or other forms of maintenance. I'm also very concerned about the lack of spacing and privacy in the nurse's office. It is a very small office, and when students do not have a lot of privacy, it's incredibly difficult to space students. And if you know anything about the role of a nurse, not only does a nurse care for children, but they also spend a lot of time talking with parents, talking with staff, talking with administration. The room is so small that it is really challenging for the nurse to have a conversation with a parent because oftentimes there's a child that might be 2 or 3 feet away. Additionally, during a pandemic, 6 feet of spacing in the nurse's office is just not possible. If you look at the setup of the nurse's office, she has a child that sits about 2 feet away from her desk. It is very concerning. I would also like to point out that there's a lack of the appropriate number of bathrooms. We have 1 boys' bathroom and 1 girls' bathroom on the 2nd floor of the Central School. That's approximately 60% of all students are utilizing that one bathroom. And again, that may not seem like a big deal, but with elementary school kids, they tend to need to use the restroom about 20 to 30 minutes after lunch. And you'll notice that oftentimes I've walked by there, there's a long line of students waiting to just get in the bathroom. If you're waiting in line to use the restroom, you are not receiving instruction. Or a classroom teacher may have to pause all class instruction because there's only the one restroom. And then additionally, another concern that I have is the 60s stairwell in the newly renovated 60s wing. The stairwell in there is very narrow. I have some significant concerns. If there were ever an emergency in that hallway, we'd have firefighters who may be trying to go up the stairwell. A firefighter in full gear would take up the whole stairwell, and I would be concerned that we wouldn't be able to get children out. The project that we're proposing would eliminate that stairwell because that would be an entry point into the new addition. If we could advance to the next slide, please. So what I just described is really, it's not ideal. We make it work. But what I really want to do is I want to focus a little bit of time on the educational impact, because that's what we're all about. As the superintendent of schools, I am the chief instructional officer of the district. It is my job to ensure high quality instruction for every single child that enters the Hampstead Public Schools. That is difficult to do with the deficiencies that we have at the central school. And I want to highlight four. The first one is the Library Media Center. It's located in a classroom. I hate to say it, we don't have a library media center. We have a classroom that houses books and a library media specialist and an assistant. It is not a library media center. And I have to tell you, I find it a little tragic because I've had several meetings and several conversations with our library media specialist. She has boundless energy and creativity and vision like I have never seen before. And she's contained by a lack of a library media center space. You know, we've had conversations about, you know, the library is a learning hub for 21st century learning. It is a place where we have, you know, STEM center activities. It is a place where we have a maker space, 3D printers, collaboration space for teachers to work in small groups with students, for students to work with other students. There's endless possibilities. We have the talent in the library, we just don't have the space. And this is concerning on a variety of levels, but most importantly, there's a lot of research that would support the idea that a robust library media center actually increases student achievement across the board for all levels. I would also say from a more traditionalist standpoint, there's something magical about a child exploring the library media space, walking through and opening up books. It builds passion for reading and literacy. There's a lot of really great conversations that happen between the library media specialist. It's not happening at the central school right now. Right now, classrooms, we can't even have whole groups of students in the library media center. What ends up having to happen is small groups of students are sent down to the library media center, and they're cycled through in about 8 to 10 minute shifts. You can't cultivate a passion for reading and a love of literacy in an 8 to 10 minute shift. You just can't do it. Furthermore, we've talked about technology classes that are currently on a cart. Our 40-minute block of time gets reduced significantly when the technology teacher has to arrive to a classroom, has to log on to the computers, get kids set up, and then at the end of the class has to pack away the computers. So it's cutting significantly into a classroom that has real value to us. And you know, I would also say it's not just technology. Right now we're looking at next year, depending on what enrollment does, and that is always a wild card, we may have to extend that into other unified arts. We also have a social worker who meets with students in small groups, does really great work. She oftentimes has to beg, borrow for classroom space because there's not a dedicated space for her to meet with small groups of students. So we have a social worker on a cart, essentially. And I worry about that because there's a lot of confidentiality issues when you talk about a social worker who struggles to find space for the small groups that she works with. And even our interventionists who are trying to provide math and reading support for RTI, they don't always have a dedicated space. They move around from classroom to classroom. And again, it can be a real struggle. And then another one that really concerns me is we do not have universal kindergarten. I did a little bit of research. There's approximately 175 school districts in the state of New Hampshire that have universal full-time kindergarten. Hampstead's not one of them. We're on a short list of approximately a dozen school districts. And on the trajectory we're going, without the addition and the adoption of universal K, there's a potential that Hampstead could be the last. That to me seems really incompatible with the value that this community places on the education of their children. There is tremendous impact when we have some of our children are not able to access full-time kindergarten. They go into first grade not having the requisite skills that are necessary to be successful. And I also, just from a personal standpoint, we have families that move to this community for the schools. I've heard it for months during my entry plan. They are moving here to access the schools, or they're moving back here having been a product of the Hampstead school. And I want you to just take a moment and think about the family that moves here for the school. They show up to the school to register their child for full-day kindergarten, and they're told no. Next year, we are set to tell families no because we don't have room. That's not fair. We need to look to have universal kindergarten. We can't even have that conversation until we get an addition. And lastly, the one that's really passionate for me is we have inadequate spaces to support inclusionary practices and special education. I'll use the same example. We have families that move to this community to educate their children in wonderful schools. Those families move here, they buy a house, they have a child, and they find out that their child has a significant disability. And at the age of 3, it is our responsibility as a school district to educate that child. We meet as part of an IEP team meeting, and we have to deliver devastating news to some families. We have to tell them we don't have the facilities to be able to educate your child. That's heartbreaking. That is really heartbreaking to think that we offer such a wonderful product here, but we can't educate some of the children that live in this community in their schools. To me, it is a moral imperative. It has nothing to do with money or the cost of out of district. This has to do with the moral imperative. If you are a child that lives in the Hampstead community, we have a duty to the greatest extent possible to provide them an education here in our schools. Right now, we're not able to do that for every kid. So these are the deficiencies that I've identified. There are additional ones, and some of those will be covered in this presentation by the architect. I would, at this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Gino Baroni. He's the owner and managing principal partner for Trident Project Management. Again, it is a statutory requirement that a project of this size, we have an owner's project management. I can tell you that I've had the privilege of working with Gino on the present renovation project. He represents the district and serves the district well. And we are very lucky with the reputation that he has to be able to have him on this project. And at this time, I'm going to briefly turn it over to him. Thank you.
Thank you. Want to go to the next slide? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've asked the team to move down. We're at the opposite end, so we'll save some time by having to come up here. We're here once again, and proud to be here once again to hopefully educate the taxpayers on why this is important. The superintendent's done a fantastic job explaining the educational portion of this. We'll, with the architect, explain a little bit more the details of why and what is necessary. I really appreciate the superintendent calling me out, but I have here from my company, Caitlin Horan, who's the project manager, who actually does all the work. I just take the credit. We have Carolyn Morel, who's from the architects, Dennis Myers, and we also have Barrett Salter from BP&S, the construction manager. So we have a team that's worked together not only on this project, but on other projects. So we're ready to go. We understand what's going on. We'll define the owner's project manager as the only entity that really represents the objectivity and the benefit of the district. We have no other purpose here but to make sure the taxpayer dollar is spent well, it is done on time, on quality, and to ensure that you get the most out of your money. So that's what we're here for. We do it on several schools a year. We do it for private industry. We want to make sure the maximum amount of quality and product is delivered here for your dollar. It says we manage the outcome to completion. Well, we try to shepherd it. We can't absolutely manage it. We make sure that we have controlled chaos pointed in the right direction, and we do get there. So we have a great team here that really interacts together well. We understand each other. They understand what our requirements are, the district requirements are. There's a lot that goes into a development and construction project that is beyond the bricks and mortar. It is strategizing safety of students, best ways to do, best practices, so many different things that go into a project, and those in this industry know what it is. But recently, if you've tried to do any home construction or home renovations, you understand what we go through. You can't find anybody to do anything right now if you're trying to do a home renovation, but we have a team here that has to make sure it happens on time so you open up on time. We are client-driven. We act as really as your manager in your best interest, and we have over 30 years' experience in this business. So enough about Trident. What I'd like to do now is go on with the presentation so you can see the actual progress we've made again to modify the plan, which is essentially as it was last year, but we've done some great renovation work. Thank you for the taxpayers. I think if you see that, you'll be really impressed by what was done for the price it was done. So I'm going to turn this over to Carol.
Gino, if you don't mind, just one, this is kind of impromptu, but first, I want to second that. Yes, Caitlin does do the work. We've worked with you. We know what Caitlin does. We appreciate it. No, but we just want to say thank you for the renovation that you've done on the 60s wing. For those that, calling in, listening for the first time about this, Gino and team, and really it is the team, have delivered on time and under budget in this trying time. As anybody who's done renovations to their house, they know what used to take 3 or 4 weeks to get windows, now it's taking 12, 16, 20 weeks to get windows. And Gino and team has taken that challenge and been able to deliver everything as told and under budget, which is money that'll come back to the district to use for other projects. So, just want to make sure that all are aware and just the appreciation that you are there for the taxpayers. So thank you.
We appreciate that acknowledgement. Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is Caroline Morel. I'm with Dennis Myers, the architect, part of the team along with Trident and BPS, who's the building advisor on that for the moment and who also built the 60s wing. And I'm here to present this architectural part of the bond. I'm not shy to say that this is presentation that's very similar to what we already showed in 2019. And the reason is because the building doesn't change, the building hasn't moved, it hasn't evolved, the interior space haven't changed. We've done a good job, and I'll show you in a minute, on improving the 60s wings. But in the end, the needs that come with the building haven't changed. So we try and refine a little bit. Every year we look at, evaluation and people's interest and what they want to do. But in the end, you have a building, it's been there for a long time, and we have to contend with that. So we'll go over the 60s wings before we start, because I think it's a really good example, like Chairman Smith said, of how a team can collaborate with the school district to provide a really good product. Then we'll try and explain why it's important, and we'll reinforce what Superintendent Thompson has already said. And we'll explain what the conceptual design, again, very similar, just a few tweaks. And then I'll let Trident come back and Gino come back and explain the numbers. So to start with the 60s wings renovation, the primary purpose was to do an energy retrofit of the building. This is a building that was built in the 60s with mostly CMU walls and just single panes windows, and it was leaking heat all over. And so the goal was to really insulate the entire envelope. It means the roof, it means the walls, the windows, retrofit also the mechanical system that goes with that. And then a second objective was also to improve, especially in this COVID area, the indoor air quality for the children. And while we were doing that, we didn't really move walls or do anything to readjust the interior space. However, it was important that we do a few touches on the interior finish, and a few things, like you'll see, have been done. So the top picture is during construction, and that's to illustrate the insulation of the building. The yellow stuff you see everywhere is foam. It's 3 inches thick of closed insulation, closed cell insulation that was spread everywhere to really insulate the building. The second picture on the top in the middle, it shows the insulation also at the foundation, because we want to do the exterior wall, but we want to go below grade in order to prevent the cold from entering the building. We then covered this insulation with mostly brick, which is a very durable material and gives us a good bang for our bucks. A little bit of fun blue composite material. And then at the top, the picture you see at the top, this is the corner where we're hoping that if you all vote for the bond, we can actually install new classroom in this little courtyard. So we decided not to spend too much money on the siding, and we used a metal siding, single skin, that we can remove, and we won't cry too much when we trash that, and we installed a new classroom there. Part of the insulation is the roof, which is in this middle picture at the top, so more insulation. And so when we insulate the roof more, we also have to think about reinforcing the roof structure, because when you insulate more, you have less heat release, and it means that the snow doesn't melt as fast. And so we have to increase the loads that the roof can carry. And then the final thing is that you can see those beautiful windows, a lot of daylight, really essential for instruction and a good learning environment. And these are 3-pane windows. So this is what you should aspire in your house. And in the between the third and second pane, you have integral shades also. And then the part of still the energy retrofit was upgrading the entire mechanical system, so heating and cooling, but also ventilation, because we want good indoor air quality. So we installed individual units in every classroom. They are called ERVs. E stands for energy or recovery, V ventilation. And the idea is that you need to ventilate the classrooms, but you're not taking the air from the outside and mixing it with what's inside to provide more oxygen without first treating it. And so those boxes actually precondition the air that we mix to provide a good ventilation. And by doing that, we're inside the box, inside the ERVs, we have filters, and these also help with the good air quality. And illustration of just the type of interior renovation. So you see brand new carpets in the classroom. You see LVT, which stands for luxury vinyl tile, at the sinks in the kindergarten classrooms. And you see brand new paint and also carpet in the hallways. So I'll let Gino come back here to explain to you where we are at with the budget on this.
Thank you again. This is illustrative of why we chose a GMP, a guaranteed maximum price, guaranteed project delivery system. It has worked very, very well over the years, and the difference between this and a lump sum is basically this. If it was a lump sum contract for $2,095,000, the $172,000 would just disappear. It would go to BP&S, Trident, everyone else, because we don't have to show you anything. We don't have to give anything back. That's not what we want to do. We really respect the taxpayers. We respect every dollar that's spent by hardworking individuals, and we want to deliver the best quality we can. So you see here right now that we have 3 categories that are listed under a guaranteed maximum price project. The hard costs, which are construction costs essentially. BP&S guaranteed $1,803,023. I guess we'll put that in there. Spent to date was $1,761,915. So at this point, BP&S is looking to, again, not giving it back because we haven't taken it, but the budget is not used up. So the district gets back approximately $41,000 to use elsewhere if it so desires, whether it's education or whatever project it wants. The soft cost side really came in very well. We had a very efficient team, the architects, the OPM. We had a commissioning agent, and for commissioning, we want to make sure all the mechanical systems work well and hazmat materials. So we're able to not spend $78,000 of $220,000. And some people may say, well, why was your budget $220,000? Because that's what we believe it would be. We had some lucky breaks. It goes other ways sometimes. I mean, we could have spent $235,000. We're still under the $2,095,000, but it didn't. So we're very anxious and very observant of where money is being spent. And then we have the owner's contingency, and people don't. Many people don't understand why we have that. Well, there are things that are happening that are not the responsibility of the contractor nor the design team. Things happen. You open up a wall. We did our best due diligence. We did a great existing conditions work, but you open up the wall, and lo and behold, it's not what anyone thought. And it's not fair to tell the contractor that you have this because it was unforeseen. So the owner has a contingency that they can push to the contractor to overcome those issues. So all in all, at this time, we're looking out of a $2,095,000 budget. We're still not done yet. We have a bit more commissioning and stuff. But we're looking to give back or not to draw down approximately $170,000, which is, to me, is exceptional. We're under budget. We've done I applaud the team, BP&S and the architect, and Caitlin, as I said, everyone recognizes does all the work, to keep this in check. So we know what we're doing. We have a team that works together well, and we are not shy about making sure that the money is spent where it's supposed to be spent and not spend it all. With that, I'm going to turn it back so you can see, unless there's questions on this. We really feel this was a very, very successful project, and really urge the people and the students who are going to use this facility at an appropriate time to walk through, to see the quality, to see the difference between the buildings as you walk through to what it could be in the future. So thank you.
No, again, appreciate it very much, Gino. I mean, getting 8.5% back, essentially, in a time like what we've had for the last year, that's really amazing, and we really appreciate that. So,
Thank you.
And it looks great. We've been through it, so thank you.
All right, so now we go in the weeds of why we need this project. And I want to emphasize that it's not just wishes. It's not just, oh, the next school district over has this and that, and so now we want a library too. Everything that we're presenting now is really based on studies, on explaining and talking with the teachers, the faculty, the district administration, and then on our expertise in the field, designing schools, which we have been doing at Dennis Myers for the past 40 plus years. So everything I'm going to present now, I want to emphasize, is need-based. It is not wishful. It's really something that would make the school a better school, and that would really improve the learning environment of the children. And I want all of us to think back a minute on, 2 years ago when we were all forced to be at home educating our children through Zoom remotely. You were really happy when you had little Joey going around with his fire truck and you were trying to teach Emma her addition table while you were on the phone trying to get your unemployment checks, and that your partner was on a Zoom meeting professionally, everybody in the same room. Well, think about that, and this is what's going on at Hampstead Central School. So let's start with the education portion. And on this, I'm going to just reaffirm what Superintendent Thompson explained already. This is a school. The primary core mission is to educate the children. We need to do that in an environment that is safe and conducive to education. The classroom is the center of their universe. That's where they spend more than half the time. So the classroom needs to be well-sized. Some of the sizing requirements are based on New Hampshire standards. A kindergarten classroom needs to be at least 1,000 square feet. Grade 1 through 4 needs to be about 900 or more. There are also requirements about the number of children you can have inside a classroom, and it's less 18 children for kindergarten, whereas you cannot go over 23 children for grade 1 through 4. So the size of the classroom is really important. And right now there are 3 classrooms that are way too small, undersized, and you cannot fit the children properly in there to learn properly. Then there's a number of classrooms. With the current enrollment, we need 5 classrooms per grade. If we don't have that, we cannot fulfill the goal of getting full day kindergarten. So 5 classrooms per grade is essential to fulfill the current needs and the very foreseeable future. Then the final thing is we want, for the children and for the teachers, for the classroom to be clustered together. One, for the children, because maybe they're going to be in Mrs. X class this year, but they're part of a larger cohort, and we want them to interact together. And it's also very important, so it's easier to do that when the classrooms are close to each other. But for the faculty, it's also very important to collaborate, and it's easier to educate the entire cohort together when the classrooms are clustered together. And right now, it's not the case. So this is one part of the deficiencies that we have to fix in this building. Continuing on the education part, we want to think about what are the satellites in the universe of the student. So classroom is the important, part where we spend a lot of time, but then we learn in other spaces. And special education is really, really important. And like Superintendent Thompson said, it is a moral imperative that we try and serve every children in the district, inside the district boundaries, within the buildings. The other part is that the building is at the latest, the newest part, from the 80s. At that time, special education was a brand new concept. And it has evolved dramatically since then, and the spaces required to support special education have really changed, and it's important that we keep up to that. Like a closet is not acceptable to provide instruction in special education. And now you're going to tell me, well, special education, it's just a few children, and I don't care, my kid is not special ed. And I'm telling you, yeah, maybe your children are not qualifying for an official IEP. But if the school has the space and the resources, then they can also help remediate if your child needs help in math, or challenge if they're really talented in language art. But right now, the resources and the spaces lack on that front, and we can't even serve the special ed kids. So it's really hard to kind of, deploy the entire thing to everybody else. The next slide is to reinforce what was said earlier about the gym and the cafeteria. How can we just teach one in the other? And on that front, something else to think about is the mechanical system and the ventilation is currently running for the entire space. So it means that we are trying to ventilate meals and kids eating, and then just a few minutes later, when the custodians can just pack everything away, the kids come and exercise and sweat. And so, how can we provide a better space, because it's not adequate in terms of mechanical system either. And then a little stop on the fact that the school is really gearing to be proud and to value arts and really integrate that. It means that, so an integrated art school means that the art is the connector between all the other subjects. So for example, we're learning fraction through music. We're learning geometry through drawings and visual art. We are learning social studies because we put together, and we reinforce the social studies because we put together a play. And it is just not possible with the current space to do any of that. Then something else with the library, which Superintendent Thompson really explained pretty well. The library, the way it is currently, is just not serving the school and the children at all. And we can go to the next one. And then finally, in terms of the space overall for the school, obviously there are currently portables, and we want to get rid of them. It's quite third world-like to have portables in your schoolyard. And the idea is that when we can remove them, we can work on the site and the exterior of the building. We can improve the drop-off loop, and that relates to what was said earlier about the boundary on the edge of the school with the neighbor. The leach fields also, there are currently 3 in the back of the school, are really close to their final end of life, and we have to change that. We don't have really good learning outdoor learning environment, and that is directly accessible. And in this COVID area, where we try and emphasize, air quality and be outside, this is something that we think is really important, and we like that. So this was the education part. Now, safety and security. You see all those arrows on the on this picture. Oh. This is all the access points in the school. How do you manage that when you're the principal? We know it's a difficult era, and we want to control access to the school, and the current setting is not conducive to that. All right. In particular, we want to emphasize what's happening at the entrance of the school. So there is no direct eye contact of any visitor by the administration staff. It means currently that they're using a video call, but it's so easy to just not see the entire person, and it's a dramatic and very important safety concern that we need to think about. The next thing also is that once the person is entering the current setting, nothing prevents them to go directly in the gym and not go up to the administration offices. So this is something that needs to be addressed. Still in the code requirement now, there are several things. So the stair that's not compliant in the 60s wing, like Superintendent Thompson mentioned, a lot of the railing also needs to be reviewed, the restroom we were talking about. And it's not just a question of practicality, it's also a question of code. When you have a certain number of people in a building, you have to have a certain number of toilets and drinking fountains. And I think the most important part of all is the fire sprinkler. Currently, the building is not sprinklered. And we wouldn't want to be on the news like this building in Brooklyn, New York. In terms of the other code and structural deficiencies, we're currently monitoring some structural repairs and making sure that it's not going awry. If the sprinkler is not done the way it is currently, we would also have to remedy on propagation of smoke and change many of the classroom doors and automatic doors and closers throughout the building. And then finally, in terms of the building efficiency, we're trying to create a really a learning environment that's conducive to teaching the children. But for that, you need to have good lighting. You need to feel comfortable in terms of the temperature. You need to have good ventilation. And you also want to do that in a financially efficient manner. So we're lacking, for example, water-saving fixtures in the building. We would want to upgrade, which the facilities team has started doing, a lot of the LED fixtures, the fixtures to LEDs in order to save money on that front as well. And there is one last little piece of the roof that is still old and not insulated enough that we want to tackle as well. So again, everything I'm showing here is need-based. This is something that I want to emphasize. All of this is based on reports from engineers, reports from our office, and talking with the academic team, and it's really going with the building. So here, this is how we came up with all the assessment. and how we listed all the deficiencies and the problems that we have to repair. Then there was community outreach, and we produced a conceptual design, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Like I said at the beginning, this conceptual design is very similar to what has been presented in the years past, and that's because the building hasn't moved. So the approach for designing based on the list of problems we enumerated is to try and fix first what we have, renovate so that we can be good shepherds of what is existing, and we can continue to carry the building and the existing into the future. But then there are needs that can only be fulfilled when we build a new part to the campus. So just to give you a refresh of where we are, the building is composed of 3 different wings. The original is from the 40s. Then there was an addition which we showed the renovation in terms of the energy retrofit recently at the beginning of the presentation. And then the rest and the major area of the building is from the 80s. Now, from the 80s means that this was built 40 years ago. It means that some of you in this room and at home actually graduated, went by and saw the 80s addition and were there when they were children. So here's the site plan and what we're trying to achieve with this this addition. How do I point? I use this? Thank you. Okay, so this part here plus the gym is what's existing, right? And we're adding here to the top and in this little corner. Now, by freeing the back of the school from the portables, we can enlarge the drop-off loop, and instead of having parking on each side, we have parking in the middle, so we're not reducing the number of parking spots, but we allow for a really easy traffic pattern to be able to drop off and pick up the way it's done now. And instead of having to loop back in the church across the street, we can be back on the school's property. The front entrance remains where it is now, except that we're bumping out here. And because the elevator is here, we keep the ADA access and entrance from that side. By reworking the site a bit, we can keep this fire lane in the back. We are replacing the 3 leach fields here. And by closing the loop of the architecture of the building, we are creating a really nice circulation inside the building that leaves you to have access to the playground in the back, to this outside learning space on this corner, and then we're creating this new outdoor learning space in the middle, which also provides a lot of light and keep a lot of light on the classrooms that are existing, and then on this new wing. So I just click. Okay. So now we're a bit zoomed in, and this is the first level. So on these white notes here, it's everything we're fixing and renovating and renewing, okay? The first phase we're trying to achieve. So we're renovating the kitchen. We're moving the nurse station to the front of the building to achieve what superintendent was explaining is a big problem with the nurse office. And we provide a really nice space here. We're also providing more office space in this corner. We're fixing the structural problems in here, and we're removing the non-compliant stairs in the 60s wings. Now, because we're building new, because there's a lot of spaces we cannot achieve within existing, we're adding the library here, which also, by its nature, is providing additional learning environment. We have a really nice music space here, which has the additional toilet in this corner, which allows for this new cafeteria to be used completely separately from the school when the school is closed. So we can close the hallway here and allows the use of the cafeteria. And this corner here could be turned into a stage, which is why we have the two closets here that allows this kind of usage. Then inside the gym, because we have now a full gym, and we don't have to share it with the cafeteria, we have room to actually install more storage. And then finally, we're installing here the administration and create a really secure entry with complete direct eye contact from the staff in the administration, letting people in and or stopping them if that needs to be done. On the upper level, where the library is, we have an additional 2 classrooms. Then we have what used to be the library, which are returned to actual classrooms which are sized properly. And then this corner, which was also on the lower floor, is infilled, and we have stacked on top of each other 2 classrooms, which allows us to fulfill this goal of having 5 classrooms per grades. Again, we're removing the stair in here. And all these classrooms that are currently used as grade classrooms are now reallocated to special ed and support education. So that's what it looks like in 3D. The admin here, the existing gym, which is now fully used as a gym, the addition of the cafeteria right in the back. Then we have the restrooms and the music here. We have the library block with the 2 classrooms above. This is the existing 60s wing that we just renovated, and we infill this little corner to stack 2 classrooms on top of each other. So in 3D, this is what it looks like. This is the entrance with the admin bump out. We have a nice canopy. We have full visual contact for anyone coming in and out. We have ADA on-grade access. In the back of the school, this is the existing block of the gym. We add the cafeteria, which can be used as a community space if we need to, because the restrooms are just here. We have a really nice space for the music room. And then on the lower level of this corner, we have the library, the 2 classrooms above. In the back, we keep the fire access road. And when we turn, we still have the library here on the lower level, the 2 classrooms on the upper level. This is the existing wing that we just renovated, and we infill the little corner here with 2 classrooms, and we keep the same design throughout. So with that, we are fulfilling a long-term goal of providing a school that achieves the educational goals of the school district, fulfills all the code, structural, and space requirements that we were looking to fix. And we're adding the cafeteria, the library, the music room, and that allows reorganization of the existing spaces to provide the proper number of classrooms and for them to be right-sized. And now I'll let Gino come back here to show you how we're budgeting that.
I always get the fun part is explaining the costs. And I'm happy to do that and very confident in what we're doing here, again, because of the team. I want to make a couple of comments. We hear as we walk around, the place looks great, why do anything to it? Well, you can thank Jeff Mackey and his crew and the staff and the administration for really valuing the asset of the town and keeping it in great shape. It should not be held against them. It should be a source of pride and respect for what they are given to do. So when I hear that, it just kind of, what do you expect? Them to not care about the building? So it is very well maintained, and they're doing a very good job at doing so. So thanks to Jeff and the crew. It hasn't changed much in design, because it is needs-based. It is not want-based, wish-based. So people will say, well, why are you coming back with the same thing? Well, it's not because it's a wish, it's needed. And we're really trying to keep it. You need security upgrades, really important. You need air upgrades. You need educational upgrades, of course, the most important. Special education should be in the district, not out. The district needs and understands that. The superintendent has mentioned it, but I want to reemphasize that. This is Hampstead. It's got pride. It has a great school system. And even though it's great now, it could be even better. So I just want to make that comment. Well, let's get to the numbers. We've been working very hard with BPNS and the architect to really look at the numbers. People look at us and say, well, look what's going on in the world. Supply chain issues, escalation, unknown. We feel, and we've had a lot of, I call them vibrant discussions with the contractor to understand what's going on, put them on the spot, work with them, and we feel very confident with BPNS and the architect. As long as we all work together and don't start to vary from the design, concepts will be okay. So the budget we're coming in for hard costs is $10,835,000, and we feel we feel good about it. We're anxious about it because we don't know what happens, but we are sticking to this number and we will deliver it. The soft cost, again, for the architectural engineering fees, project management fees, FF&E, which is fixtures, furniture, and equipment, technology and commissioning, we have a number of $1,260,000. We brought that down as tight as we can. We work with the district as far as furniture, reuse, not reuse, et cetera, technology, so that's tight. And here we have an item that people always get fret, why are you carrying a contingency? Well, if we didn't, we wouldn't be working on your best behalf. Things happen, things are unforeseen. There may be a blip on some product that we don't know, and we have to deliver the school so you could open and use it correctly. And we put in there at $500,000, which is a little bit less than 5%. We feel comfortable with that again. When I say comfortable, I'm not sitting back saying, well, that's a breeze. We feel respectful that this team can deliver for the project numbers we're telling you now of $12,595,000. We have the plan in place. We have the talent in place. We can't predict the future, but we feel we have enough experience and enough of our subcontracting community that's willing to do this, and we'll stand behind this number. And with that, I guess we'll open it up to whatever you want to ask us.
Board members, any questions, comments?
I don't have any right now.
I don't think right now. I think when we get to the voting period, we have some discussions there. We'll probably have some words. But I know I don't have any questions. I know, Gina, we've talked a lot in the past about this over the years. So I definitely have confidence in what you've brought to us, as well as back to the needs-based. Can't say it enough, you know, we're looking at what is needed, not wanted. So we'll talk more in a little bit, so thank you for that. We're gonna go then, see, I think we can skip some slides here. This was all about, yeah, you can skip to that next slide. I don't know if I can, let me see if I can get it or not. Yeah. Yep, there we go. Thank you so much. So as what was just presented for the total budget of $12.595 million, on this slide is the tax impact that CFO Jeff Dowd had put together for us. And I'll read just some of the numbers here. This is all on the website already for you to view, and it'll stay up for the foreseeable future until voting day of March 8th. But we went through and we added what the tax rate impact is for a $200,000 home, for a $400,000 home, and a $600,000 home. And I'll start from the 200 and move up, and then I'll give some easy math. So if you're at home and you're like, well, my house is in the middle somewhere, figure out how it is. So for a $200,000 home, it's about an average of $200 per year. For a $400,000 home, it's about $400 per year impact. And for a $600,000 home, you guessed it, $600 per year. So it's about $100 for every $100,000 that your home's value is what the tax impact is. And per month, for every $100,000 of your home value, it's $8.50. So if you have a $400,000 home, tax impact again is $400 per month per year, and the tax impact would be about $34 per month for this plan. So that's about the approximation for this, is $34 per month for a $400,000 home. That's about the average in Hampstead. Maybe it's about $500,000, so add another $850, so you're going up towards about $42 per month is the tax impact for this 10-year bond. And again, we had talked earlier, we had mentioned that we were expecting the interest rate to be about 1.5% or less. So that is the percent for this bond that we'll be going after. All right, we'll go to the next slide. So this is now when we open it up for questions, comments from the public. I see that we have not only the crew, the team here that just spoke, but we don't have very many people from the public other than a select board member, Lori Warnock. So I'm not sure if there's any questions or comments, but we appreciate you for being here, Lori, for sure, and being in support. So I'm just gonna, any questions, comments? All right, then at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing on the bond. All right, so the next one is the public hearing on the budget. The public hearing is now open. So we're gonna go to the next slide, and this is on Article 3, the operating budget. Shall the voters of the Hampstead School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $31,671,796. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $31,972,403, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Hampstead School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:3, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of the revised operating budget only. Note, warrant Article 3, the operating budget, does not include appropriations proposed under any other warrant articles. Majority vote required. All right, so we're going to go into a little bit of the budget presentation overview now. We'll be again, this is on the website for your viewing pleasure. What we're going to be going over in the subsequent slides are the budget drivers and projected enrollments. We're going to talk about any budget changes by department, highlights of the increases and decreases, talk about staffing, the overall budget proposal, and the default budget. One thing I'll mention here is this is a little different than in years past, what you'll see in the coming slides where myself and Superintendent Thompson will speak to, which is a lot more detailed information than we've ever given before. And again, what's available online is a line-by-line depiction of the budgets. So here are our drivers. Our budget drivers for the operating budget that's being proposed in the warrant article. Salaries, as voted upon in the past, are part of this at $843,711. Group insurance, as we've seen across the state and pretty much everywhere, is going up to the tune of $484,807. Social Security has gone up by $18,799. Employee retirement has dropped by $96,562. Teacher retirement has gone down by $47,501. Other employment benefits are up $22,177. Tuition is expected to be up at $43,989. Compared to last year's operating budget, books and info resources are going down $178,580. And then professional services are going up $91,136. Continuing on, other major drivers, transportation is going up $82,464. The SAU object code, $438,000 down. Software is up at $52,129. Equipment down $28,808. Rental of facilities is up $20,750. A line item for other, which is miscellaneous, for $26,512. We have fund transfers of $270,000, and then repair and maintenance as is down $1.841 million, which would be what we have for the 60s wing renovation. So the total increase, or in this case, decrease, is $674,487, or the approximation of 2.09% down from last year's total operating budget. So just to highlight that again, that is down 2.09% compared. All right, so now we'll talk about the projected enrollment. As you can see here, projected enrollment is going to go up for the central school by 8 children, middle school up by 4 children, and Pinkerton to go up by 2 children. In the total district enrollment for school year 2022 to 2023 is expected to go up by 14 students to 1,225. It is a couple of notes here also. Pinkerton's tuition rate is expected to go up to $14,238. The resource program will have a tuition of $9,504. Passes is at $20,142, and ACT or ACT is at $39,546. Again, the overall budget proposal that is going to warrant is $31,671,796. Current budget is $32,346,283. Proposed budget, again, is at $31.671 million. And that difference, again, from last year is down $674,487 for a total decrease of 2.09% year over year. So as a taxpayer, I appreciate that. So with that being said, Mr. Thompson is going to go into a bit more detail of the personnel and other information.
Thank you. As Chairman Smith mentioned, this year, we really, the goal in delivering this operating budget was to provide the taxpayers as much transparency as possible into the process. And the process was a little different this year. We used a zero-based budgeting model, which essentially builds the budget starting with zero, and you add in all of the needs. That's really what drove the budget. It's a very time-consuming process, and I give a ton of credit, all of the credit, to the members of the leadership team sitting behind me that went line by line, item by item. I kid you not, they were counting boxes of crayons and rulers, and it was a time-intensive process, but the end result is a budget that satisfies our need to provide high-quality instruction to our students at a cost that is very reasonable to taxpayers. And so you will find endless numbers of budget documents on our website. If there's information you're looking for and you can't find it or need access to it, please reach out to myself or CFO Dowd. We'll give you any of the information. We're happy to meet with any individuals. If you have specific questions, you'd like to learn more, you'd really like to take the deep dive, I'd be happy to meet with anyone. But oftentimes, for efficiency purposes, people like to know what is new in the budget and what have you taken out. And so what we created this year was a new and deleted items spreadsheet that highlights some of the major drivers of the budget. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of those. So the first portion of the new and deleted items is personnel. So at the central school, we're adding a technology assistant. Essentially, we have deployed a large number of new Chromebooks and iPads as well. And the support for those devices haven't keeping up with the actual inventory and number of devices. So it's really critically important that we have that IT support for our teachers, which we don't currently have in both buildings. We also have a decrease of $3,857 for stipends. A few years ago, there was some restructuring in the district. There was an elimination of the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and there were several stipends that were provided to teacher leaders. Now, I want to be careful here. We don't want to get rid of those teacher leaders. We want them to serve in the capacity, but we need to be a little bit more creative with how we're funding this and doing some consolidating. We have a Director of 21st Century Learning Assessment and Technology who has a background in curriculum. So we're going to look to make some shifts and changes. That would actually include putting some of these teacher stipends into a Title II grant. That's a federal grant, so there's no impact on the operating budget. And that would be the same at HMS. Next, moving on to new and deleted items for student services personnel. So we have $85,975 that we will be expending to bring our part-time paraeducators to full-time status. The majority of, or a number of paraeducators in our school district are part-time, and they actually are part-time. They missed the cutoff for full-time benefits by just a couple of hours. And it would appear that this may have been a cost-saving measure in the past. It's really not fair to these individuals. They deserve to be compensated and receive full-time benefits. It actually makes the positions more attractive. They're hard positions to fill, specifically at part-time. So the $85,000 will be to move 6 to full-time status. As a result, we're actually eliminating 6 paraeducator positions for a total of 96. So the increase of $85,000 is really offset in addition by cutting the 6 positions. We just don't need those 6 positions. They're currently not filled. No one is losing a job because of the elimination of those 6 positions. Also, we have increased need at the middle school for an occupational therapist. That's a service that's driven by a student's IEP. So we'll move from a 0.8 FTE, that's a full-time equivalent, to a 1.0. Also, our Director of Student Services, Tracy Griffinhagen, has gotten very creative after looking at this budget. She recognized that we pay out approximately $50,000 in reading services to outside contracted service providers. And she's noted that there's going to be an increased need for reading services next year. So her plan, as proposed, is to add a reading specialist at $89,100. That'd be our employee. That will actually be significant cost savings, because if we were to contract out for a full-time reading specialist, we would be looking at around $120,000 for that service. Next slide, please. Additionally, in curriculum, last year there was a significant investment by the district in the math program. So we received all of those, we ordered and received all of those math textbooks and curriculum this year. So we are in the process of implementing that new math curriculum. So you'll see that there's a decrease for both the central school and the middle school. $50,000 at the central school, $110,000 of a decrease. You'll notice that we're going to be spending money on social studies curriculum materials at the central school, and also a plan to implement a research-based handwriting program at the elementary school. That is certainly a skill that students need to work on. And then you'll notice at the middle school, the curriculum need is for $2,100 for a family and consumer science mobile demonstration table. That might be something you might see on a show like Chopped or one of those other Food Channel shows. So the savings in the curriculum department is $215,992 total. Next slide, please. In information technology, again, we're going to expand our Chromebooks to first grade. There'll be an investment of $31,789. Again, our library looking to increase technology there with iPads for a total of $34,480 at the central school. And it is not our intention to have any new items at HMS. At the district level, we're going to spend $25,000 to redesign the school website. I do want to note that our IT department under Joe Dion and Michael Shaw, they've done a phenomenal job. I don't know if people have noticed, but our website is far more user-friendly, but we're actually looking to take it to the next level and have it be, real professional looking, easy for parents to get on there and access the information that they need. I do want to just make one note. You have to be careful, and this can be slightly misleading, because if something is on a replacement plan, and most of the technology that we have in this building is on a replacement cycle, it won't show up here on the newer deleted items. So I want people to be aware that we are constantly adding replacement technology, but it's been part of the regular budget for year after year. The IT department has done a wonderful job of getting things on this constant replacement cycle. Next slide, please. In athletics, we're going to commit $3,000 for transportation of a new B team. Additionally, $4,430 for new uniforms. This is in response to, athletics is popular. This will give us the flexibility to add an additional B team if we find that a sport. Like, for example, this last fall it was soccer. We had a number of students that tried out for soccer. This would give us the flexibility. We can gauge the interest of students well in advance of a season, and if come to find out we have an exponentially large number of students, we have budgeted funds to be able to add a B team. So this is something that we're going to be looking at doing for next year. And then also building needs. We have the replacement equipment for the nurse at HCS. We have furniture replacement. And then at HMS, we have a couple of big projects. We're looking to do paving, again, in the spirit of the replacement cycle. Jeff Mackey's done a wonderful job of getting things like pavement and roofing and ceiling tiles and flooring on a replacement cycle so that there's not a huge cost all at once. It's broken up over time. The stage curtain would need to be replaced. We're going to replace the cafeteria chairs and rack here at the middle school. We'll do a segment of the roof. We did major replacement in the library media center of the circulation desk, so we've taken that out as a new expense. So in sum total, building needs is $155,508.
Before you go off that slide, Ms. Thompson, just point out on the paving, that's one of the first ones, we just had a discussion not too long ago that if there's a way that we can join in with the town to bid on some of the paving, because their budget is much larger than ours for paving, so we anticipate that, to the community, that $78,000 is, on our own, but if there is the opportunity that presents itself that we can get a better pricing by working with the town, we would expect to, see an opportunity cost for us in the district.
Awesome.
All right. So on this slide, again, we're just showing this for the budget percentage trends. As you can see, I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but you can see in the last few years, starting in 2019 to 2020, it was 3.5%, to 2020-21, 4.84%. Last year, it was the 10.46%, and that was due to the renovation that was in the total budget. And then this year, with that being taken out, we've decreased that to negative 2.09%. In our average over the last 10 years is 2.61%. 8% year over year. All right, next, default budget. Should the proposed budget be defeated, the default budget would be $31,972,403. Again, as you can see, the default budget is actually higher than the proposed budget by about $300 and some odd thousand. So, again, something we challenge ourselves at the beginning of the year to be good stewards with the budgets. And as you can see, we are doing that by challenging ourselves to come under the default budget. At this point, open it up to any questions or comments from the public. Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on the budget at this time. All right, I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Megan Malcolm.
Okay, so next we have Article 4, for Capital Reserve. Shall the voters of the Hampstead School District raise and appropriate up to $500,000 to be placed in the school renovation, reconstruction, and capital improvement capital reserve fund established in 2006, with such amount to be transferred from the June 30th, 2022 unassigned fund balance surplus in excess of $150,000 available for transfer on July 1st, 2022. Majority vote required. The first $150,000 of surplus will be returned to the taxpayers. The next $500,000 of the surplus will be placed in the Capital Reserve Fund. Any additional surplus will be returned to the taxpayers. The funds from this article come from the 2021-2022 school budget surplus, not from additional taxes. Okay, so then the next, Article 5, HCS lot line adjustment. Shall the voters of the Hampstead School District raise and appropriate the sum of $17,738 for the acquisition of approximately 3,434 square feet, plus or minus, of land abutting the Hampstead Central School, and to approve the purchase and sale agreement between the district with the owners of said land in order to complete a lot line adjustment for Hampstead Central School with property located at 13 Emerson Avenue, tax map 7, lot 51, for the purposes of resolving an existing encroachment of vehicular traffic and utilities by the school, and provided the terms and conditions of the purchase and sale agreement are met, to further authorize the school board through its chair to enter into such further agreements and sign such documents are as necessary to effectuate this transaction. This shall be a non-lapsing appropriation, majority vote required. And Article 6, accept reports. Shall the Hampstead School District accept reports of agents, auditors, and committees as written in the 2021 annual report? Majority vote required.
All right. So as a reminder to the public, there will be the deliberative session 1 on Tuesday, February 8th, 2022, here at the Hampstead Middle School, 28 School Street in Hampstead. It will begin at 7 o'clock, and of course, subject to change if we get a snowstorm or some other reason why, but that would be posted. The board will now close the public session, and we're going to move to the special board meeting, where the board will now consider actions based on the public hearing regarding the budget in each of its articles. So I'm going to simply adjourn this public hearing at 8:35 on Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. And we are going to open the special meeting on July 11th, 2022 at 8:36 p.m. And I will ask Melissa to take the roll call.
Jason Giard.
Here.
Megan Malcolm.
Here.
Caitlin Parnell. Erin Pellegrini.
Here.
David Smith,
Here.
and also seated at the board table, Superintendent of Schools, Bob Thompson, and I believe we still have CFO Jeff Dowd calling in by phone?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Melissa. All right. So again, the purpose of this meeting is to take recommendation action on the budget and each of the warrant articles with the exception of Article 1, which does not require a vote. That is for the 1 and 3 year term for school board members. Everyone has a copy of their 2022 warrants in your board packets. They're stapled to the agenda page. Please locate yours now if you have not done so yet. All right. Before we get into this, again, I've said it a number of times, for those on the website, watching this live at home or watching recorded later on, all of this information is provided on the Hampstead District website. There's plenty of information that Mr. Thompson has provided, and as well as everybody in his leadership team to present to the district. So at this point, we're going to move to the articles. Again, Article 1 is election of offices. There's no recommendation required. Article 2, we're going to move to Article 2 now, which again is, I'll be looking for a motion and discussion before we vote. Can I have a motion to recommend Article 2, the operating budget to this year's, recommend Article 2 for the bond issue to this year's warrant?
So moved.
I hear a second?
Second.
All right, so Megan and then Jay second. So discussion around the school addition. Anything anybody wants to say?
We've had a lot of discussions about this, so I don't know if there needs to be additional.
All right, so I'll always take advantage of any time that I can get on this. Again, I don't know how many years gone through of trying to get this to pass. Last year, we came very close, a lot closer than I think most people would have thought, with about somewhere around 90 votes. I appreciated Mr. Thompson coming in and saying, 90 votes? I get you 90 votes. So we'll see what happens this year. I appreciate the enthusiasm, and he's still enthusiastic about it as we are. But besides things that we've talked about here already, and that we've probably repeated a number of times, a few things that I just want to point out that's probably, maybe it's newer, different talking points, but things I've been thinking about on this is, when it was talked about the 80s wing of the central school, I thought about the middle school here, which was built in the 80s. One thing that the Hampstead voters have not had to worry about in 40 years is any changes, any major additions to the middle school. And that's because when it was designed, when it was developed, and when it was, built, it was built appropriately. We have a cafeteria. We have a gymnasium. We have a music room. We have classrooms that are appropriate for the students. These are all things that we don't have at the central school. We're not asking for something different. We're not asking for something that's getting a swimming pool. We're not asking for the latest track. We're asking the same equality of this school. That's all we're asking for in these years. We're not asking for something with gold bars and columns that are high, sky high, and any other thing. We're asking for what we need. And we're asking really just to match what's here at the middle school. The same thing. That's if there's a message here from to anybody watching or listening from this point for the next 2 months, we're looking at what's at the middle school and saying that's what they need there. It's not a want, it's a need there. And I invite anybody, hopefully this year, a little bit, the last couple of years we haven't been able to do the walkthrough. Come take a look. Come take a walk through there. See what it looks like when there's a partition in the gymnasium and how small that gymnasium, quote unquote, is for physical education. Sit on the music room and we'll make a lot of noise in the gymnasium, and think about that during the day when there's children trying to, play a musical instrument, trying to sing. It's very distracting. A conversation we had, and I know we've talked about it in public also, so we've talked about, well, what does this mean if we need universal kindergarten? What does this mean if we need more room for pre-K? We started talking that, well, maybe we have to move those off-site. Maybe we have to go rent a building. Maybe you have to go look at something else off-site. Think about that for parents dropping off their children for first or second grade. Then they have to go across town or someplace else to drop off their child at kindergarten. Or we have to get another bus. Or we have to double the amount of teachers because there's a teacher for speech that we need for kindergarten, but that teacher's also needed for first, second, third, and fourth grade. Well, we're not going to be able to shift that teacher back and forth. We'll probably have to get another teacher and duplicate everybody. That's our taxes going up. You know, a lot of people don't want to hear that, don't want to talk about the money part of it, but that's the truth in it. Our money goes up because we don't have that efficiency. It's not because we want to spend money, it's because we're serving education, and it costs money to do that. But if we can keep them under one roof, that teacher for speech, that teacher for art can just walk down the hallway 3-4 doors, not 3 or 4 miles. And that's what we're talking about here. The next point is, if you look over the years for this, it has gone up. I mean, take my school board hat off and talk about a taxpayer. That pisses me off that it goes up from $12 a month for me to $15 to $20 to $34 to $44. But what doesn't go up is our education that we're able to provide to the students. The education does go down as our population does increase. It's not doubling an increase, but for every student we have to add to a classroom, that's less space. That's more per teacher that's there. Just studies. It's just well known. Education goes down when you put more and more kids in a room. If you can't bring that population down a bit in the classroom, education does come down. And lastly, think about everything we're saying that's on a cart. Technology is on a cart. Social wellness is on a cart. This past year, because of the renovation, we put art on a cart. Well, guess what? If we need a classroom, we're going to have to put art back on a cart, but it won't be just for a few months. It's going to be full time. There's going to be a lot more going on a cart. And every time there's a cart, and we talk about a technology on a cart, if you have a 40-minute class, well, it takes 5 minutes to start up hand out those laptops, get them turned on, and guess what? It takes 5 minutes to take those back. So your 40-minute class is now 30 minutes. That's 25% of the learning for each student that they're decreasing in technology. And that's just technology. Social welfare, the art on a cart, and anything else we have to, it's just immeasurable. And lastly, of course, the library. We walked in the library not too long ago. You could barely walk in. You know, thank God the kids are like, you know, much smaller than us adults, because they can actually walk through those, the passageways or whatever you want to call them. They're not aisleways. They are very tight to walk in there. And there's a lot of books that we want to provide to our kids. They can't sit in there. I think there was one table with like 2 or 3 chairs, where usually we'll have probably about half a dozen to a dozen tables. You have one table with some chairs. It's just not right for our kids, and it's not right for their education. So again, the last thing I'll say on this, and why I'd be voting yes, is one, for the education, but it's also, you know, for the average person, for the average home, we're going up $400 for a $400,000 home. That's $400 a year, $34 a month. That's, you know, I could go on for another hour on this, but that's where I'm at. So, if there are no other comments, questions, we'll take a vote. All approved? Thank you. All right, passes 4-0. All right. Article 3, same here. This is on the operating budget. So on the operating budget, we're looking to move Article 3. I'll ask for a motion, and then we can discuss it before the vote. Can I have a motion to recommend Article 3, the operating budget, to this year's warrant?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
So Jason and then Aaron. Discussion on this?
No, I think here, I would just, you know, like to thank everybody for their hard work on this budget. I know it was a lot of hard work, and really appreciate it.
I think the only thing I'll add on this one is anybody that wants to see it, every line is available on the website. Can't stress enough, you know, it's been asked for in years past. This is the first year that I can remember since being here now for about 8 years, that we can see line by line, what is the spend, what is the request, what's going to be in the operating budget. Mr. Thompson, Mr. Dowd, myself, the other school board members, we will sit down and talk about every line on that. And the great thing, it's $300,000 less than the default. So I think this is a no-brainer, in my opinion. So, any other comments, questions? All right, look for a vote. All approved?
Thank you.
All right. Move on to Article 4. Again, Article 4 is the Capital Reserve Fund. This one here, again, just to repeat a little bit, reemphasize what Mrs. Malcolm has said, which is this is to raise and appropriate $500,000 from any of this surplus from the balance at the end of June 30th, 2022. That's after the $150,000, which gets returned to the public. Then anything over that 500,000 will then again be returned to the voters. So I'm looking for a motion to move this to warrant.
Recommend.
I'm looking for, sorry, yeah, I'm looking for a motion and then a discussion to move the Article 4. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Who had the first on that?
Oh,
Thank
That would
you.
be Ms. Malcolm. Second is Jason.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Well, I mean, I just probably want to say that part of the reason why we have this here is because we were able to use funds here to get the, the renovation to the 60s wing. So we need to, build that back up so that potentially we could, do more.
Yep. Any other comments? Right. All those in favor? Raise your hand.
Thank you.
All in favor? Thank you. All right. Next one is Article 5, which is, again, do a quick just recap. This is Hampstead Central School lot line adjustment. Again, this one's something we talked about at our special meeting at 6:30. And again, this was, just to give another overview for this, those that weren't able to attend, this is a patch of land that currently we use, thankfully and gratefully to the abutters of Hampstead Central School, and we are looking to buy that piece of land for $17,738. It's about 3,434 square feet, so if anybody, again, this information is on the website, and again, we appreciate the abutters at 13 Emerson Ave, tax map 7, lot 51. So again, moving Article 5, I will ask for a motion discussion before we vote. Can I have a motion to recommend Article 5?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion?
I definitely, on this one, want to suggest that people do go online and look at the information that was put up there about this, because it has a lot of good information about why this is necessary.
And definitely want to thank Mr. Dowd for leading the charge on this. He has been talking about this and has been coordinating the efforts for some time to ensure a fair price and definitely a benefit to the school to have this officially. So thank you, Mr. Dowd, for that. Any further discussion? All approved? Please raise your hand. All right, unanimous. All right, and the last article, we're moving to Article 6, which is general acceptance of reports. I will ask for a motion and discussion before we vote. Can I have a motion to recommend Article 6, the general acceptance of reports, to this year's warrant?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor? All right. So with that, we are near done. Again, reminder that we'll have the deliberative session on Tuesday, February 8th, here at the Hampstead Middle School, here in the cafeteria at 7 p.m. sharp. And with that, I will look to adjourn the meeting today at 9:50 or 8:52 p.m. Tuesday, January 11th, 2022.
Thank you, David.
Thank you all.
Thank you.